Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hello, my
Hey.
fellow fellowers, and welcome to the Physical Media Show. With me is Runner. Tom's running behind. I haven't heard from him. Hopefully, he joins us soon. But our special guest,
Probably sleeping.
our special guest for tonight is Austin Trunick. Did I pronounce it right?
Yep, you got it. Trunick.
All right.
Yep.
The author of the Canon Film Guide. Welcome, Austin. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's good to have you on. Hello to everybody in the chat right now. HVP, welcome. It says hi, everyone. Tyrell, can't wait for the show tonight. It's going to be great. Yes, it is. It's going to be a good one. Anthony Draven and Brian Barth right now. And I'm sure we'll have more as the show starts because we just started. So if you tweet it all out, share it out for everybody, retweet it, and come join the fun. So, Austin, let's start this with you before we get into everything here. How did the Canon Film Guide come to be?
Well, if we want to go way, way back,
take us back.
I started out on my love for movies began. I grew up in the video store era. So VHS tapes. I grew up out in Ohio, kind of in a very rural area. So there weren't really close by movie theaters. So my connection with films was going to the video stores on Friday nights with my parents and my dad and bringing home a stack of movies. And that would be the entertainment that weekend. That would be what we would look forward to. And it was always fun because, I'd pick out my stuff from the kids section when I was really young. And then my father would rent a lot of action movies that a lot of those I got to watch with him. probably a little too young, but that was the generation, and I loved that, and obviously it led to where I am now. Skip forward years and years later, I'd been writing about film on a freelance basis. I went to school to film studies was one of my degrees, and I wanted something I could work on my own. And I went back to think about where my love of movies began, and my mind went back to the video store, and especially Canon movies, because when you were in the video store in those days, that Canon logo was everywhere, every shelf. And you didn't have to look far to find it. If you closed your eyes and spun around, you'd knock a Canon video off one shelf within 3 seconds. But so that's where the genesis of it came from. Originally, it was going to be one book about, probably I was thinking my 50 favorite Canon movies and sort of looking into the production histories. Trying to get interviews. At that point I was excited if I could get anybody to talk to me, and it snowballed from there. You talk to one person and you learn a story, you do some research, you find out about another movie, and it just grew into eventually what it is now, the first 3-volume series and thousands of pages. The first book is almost 600 pages, and
I know, man. I was looking at it the other day, and I was like, man, this thing is huge.
Yeah, I got it off here, but it's a big, heavy book.
Show you, so you can.
Oh, there we go.
There you go, so everybody can see it.
Yeah,
and it is available now. If you want to, there in the private chat. If you want to drop a link to where people can buy it, I'll put it in the chat so everybody can see it.
I could put it in the chat. I have a wrench.
Okay.
No, you
go ahead.
You sit back and relax, Craig.
The second book is what it's in at the publishers now. It's being indexed, so it's really right over the horizon. We're talking like a month or two. So I'm very excited to share information about that and share a release date as soon as I have that.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's about 1,000 pages, which is crazy to think. That I'd write anything that's 1,000 pages, let alone about a 3-year period about one B movie company in the 80s.
That's crazy. Hey, but it was an awesome one. Joe's Geek Show says, "Whoo, that looks like a dope read."
Wow, yes. Awesome! Thank you.
Yeah. And Brian Barr says, "Austin, thoughts on Chuck Norris?"
Gosh, I definitely have a bias towards old Chuck. Right?
Really?
I
know when you do that, it's like
I'm not good. I'd be a terrible weatherman.
I hate the inverted shit.
But he was somebody. Canon. He was a big star for Canon, but that was a company that also they took who was basically a middle-aged karate instructor with a very like smallish movie career, and made him into an action star in his mid-40s, which is pretty amazing. I mean, Chuck, he's as an actor lacking, but there's not many action stars you're going to say they're great thespians. But you know, he knew his audience. He wanted to be this sort of 80s John Wayne type character.
Yeah.
And I see some the Chuck Norris facts in the
he doesn't push himself up, he pushes the earth down.
And I mean, you look at a guy like, look at a VHS cover like this, and these are like the type of thing I'd see in the video store in the 80s, and I would believe that about this man.
Yeah.
I mean, there he is over my shoulder again. There's a lot of Chuck Norris in this frame right now. But yeah, I mean, I love Chuck Norris movies, and not all. I mean, some are much better than others, but even the bad ones, I
like.
enjoy.
Oh yeah, I like them. That's, if you get to know me, I love cheesy bad movies. Those are like my all-time favorite movies.
Greg has started to get me into cheesy bad movies in a way.
Yes.
I haven't watched a lot. One movie I did, like, I guess like one cheesy movie I've always like had you know, it's been close to my heart was the Mortal Kombat movie, the one with Christopher Lambert as Raiden. Because I'm a huge like gamer, and I like Mortal Kombat, so it's almost kind of like a guilty pleasure. I recently watched Street Fighter with Van Damme. God damn it, it's so bad, but I love it.
Van Damme was a huge fight for Canon. Yeah, he came in, and I mean, very, very famously, he just kept coming to their offices over and over again. He wanted to be an action star, and that's what he had his heart set on. And he's even in the background of Breakin'. That was like one of his first on-screen appearances, is like dancing in the background really, really hard. But so he came in, and Malcolm Golan, who was one of the two heads of Canon during this peak period, one of the two cousins, was not really convinced, did not think he had this potential, but he knew Van Damme was so persistent, trying to get meetings over and over again, that finally he kind of almost as just to get him off his back, is like, here, make this movie, and here's a script. Bloodsport, the script for Bloodsport, which he also did not think was going to be a huge hit. And so it was like, let's get this guy, we'll get the script off my desk, we'll get Van Damme out of my office, and we'll never think of it again. They actually sat on the Bloodsport. They filmed Bloodsport, and they sat on it for over a year because they thought it was unreleasable, and it probably was in the first cut. Van Damme went in himself, went into the editing room at Canon, worked with their house editor to recut the action scenes, and really a lot of that stuff where you see where like the same sort of punch from like a couple different like takes, like one kick and like a kick in slow motion. Van Damme had gotten that from a lot of the Asian action movies that he had been seeing, and that was his influence in there. So he's somebody that he's a great martial artist, like martial arts star, like action star, but he really there's more credit as a filmmaker, or at least an editor.
I mean, he helped make that movie, because I love Bloodsport. Do you have anything about any Bloodsport stuff there around you that you can get to?
Stuff right now. I think that might actually be buried, unfortunately.
And I wanted to say hello to some more people in the chat. Tyrell72, he said Invasion USA was such a great movie. Dan Blackroyd here says Canon was his childhood as far as movies go.
Mine too.
And Gap Stargate, welcome. And I think that's it. Ninja 3 Domination. Is an awesome Canon Norris film. Oh, you got it. There you go. Look at that.
That's Lucinda Dickey.
See, I tend to blow these up like this. What about Ninja 1 and 2?
Totally unrelated. Totally.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the best like dance movie, ninja film, exorcism film ever made. There's everything going on in Ninja 3.
It's awesome.
But yeah,
that's crazy. That's cool though. That's so cool. And then Berserker 99, welcome my friend. He says, I still got my Karate Commandos 80s Chuck Norris action figure, so that's cool.
Do you have here's my Chuck Norris toy that I brought for show and tell today.
Oh yes.
It
See it
is
again.
a official Delta Force toy submachine gun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, for is there an age listed on here? There's not, but there's a warning that don't shoot people in the eyes with it, basically. But yeah, if you needed a submachine gun toy in the 80s, you could buy this in like the grocery store aisle. But they made some great. There were some over the top toys. There were American Ninja toys. Sadly, a lot of those are super expensive, and I do not own them myself.
And if anybody wants to buy the Canon film guide, there's the link. So there for Volume 1. Like you said, Volume 2 is not out yet, but it's on its way. So
I see a comment about Charles Bronson. That's another.
Oh yes, Charles Bronson was interesting for Canon. Brian Barr says
Bronson made some. Yeah, it was an interesting point in his career because Canon made Death Wish 2 for him, and Death Wish was a movie that I don't think anyone was clamoring for a sequel to, but they got him to do it, and it ended up being one of Canon's first big hits and really getting Golden Globus, like getting get people to take him seriously in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is Bronson was he was like a senior citizen when he was making all these action films for Canon, and it's one of the how many other companies besides whoever's making all the Liam Neeson and Bruce Willis movies now can really build an entire business model out of releasing movies with this aging star. But for Charles Bronson, it was great because he got to make the films that, I mean, he get away with making a film a year for Canon, and they made them on his terms because they were happy to work with him. They brought his directors in to direct them. They were often came through his agent with the scripts. So it was just a mutually beneficial relationship on both sides. Like Canon was very happy with Bronson, and Bronson was very happy, I'm sure, to be with Canon at that point.
Yeah, and I guess I think that's one of the reasons why like some people, like, oh, this guy's too old to be an action star nowadays. I'm like, I remember watching the Canon films and like Charles Bronson and Chuck Norris stuff. Like, so like the age thing never bothers me when I see like an older person kicking butt in a movie. Like, oh, he's like too old. And Charles Bronson, Death Wish 5. I mean, look at this dude.
yeah, he was.
Yeah,
he was well up there by the time Death Wish 5.
So like it never really bothered me, but I'm sure we would. We'll get into some of your Canon stuff. So let's see some of your Canon stuff. What do you got with this off your hand that you can share with us a little bit before we get into some of our
on and
movies?
off camera here because it's just out of reach. But one of my favorite things that you'll get to see a lot in the books, but especially in the third one, because Canon was big about they would announce movies, and that was their way of selling it. But Canon's business model was to come up with a pitch. Usually it's like, sometimes it was just a title, there's mock-up artwork, and they would take it to film markets. Sometimes they had a star's name attached. And really, it was usually artwork that was just awesome, something that was exciting for people to see. And when they sold it to, Italy, Japan, all these foreign markets, Germany, Spain, they would sell the cable rights in the US. They would sell the VHS rights. And then once they'd sold it, they made $10 million doing this. They could go and spend $5 million to make the actual movie. It didn't matter how many theaters it played in the US. It didn't matter if they got good reviews or anything because they were already made a profit on it. But they could do that. They would take these big fat books, and I've just got one right here, and take them to these film markets and show off these ads. And if not enough people were interested in a particular idea, like you could look through a book like this, they'll have 2 or 3 Chuck Norris movies in it, and they would just make whichever Chuck movie whichever Bronson movie people showed the most interest in. But it's not. So I know we have a Bronson fan. We actually have Bronson and Norris here. We've got Charles Bronson, the Golem. So this would everyone thinks Bronson's got that famous like stone-faced expression, kind of craggy looks. People thought he was going to play the Golem when they see this, but he's actually would have played a detective, like a homicide detective. And there's the Golem. It's basically a monster that was kind of like the Robert Patrick character in T2. He could melt and go through drains and go through gutters and crawl up through people's showers. And But they're basically Bronson was investigating all these like mysterious murders in locked places, and these figures getting murdered, and it was this supernatural murder mystery that's kind of cool. It would have been neat to see.
That would have been cool.
It,
yeah, that would have been cool to see.
They were going to do it with stop motion, and yeah, that would have been so neat. But this is Canon's 1987 MeFed catalog, and Canon by 87 they couldn't afford to do stop motion monsters. That's too crazy. But I've got piles of these books. These are some of the best resources for finding stuff. But I got one here. A lot of people ask, or like, how many Canon movies are there? Because IMDb, Wikipedia, right. Everyone has different numbers and figures, and like those. It depends on how you qualify it. Are you looking at the movies Canon produced? Are you looking at the movies that they distributed? Okay, for example, this is a 1984 catalog. So this is an early 1984 Canon Group catalog.
That's awesome.
And so this is before even the company was producing several dozen movies of their own every year. This is before they bought Thorny MI, which was a huge catalog of especially British films. This is before they were just buying things left and right to distribute because they had that sort of money and they were good at selling movies foreign. But yeah. We'll take a look here. Like each of these pages has, again, can't really see that well, but there are 8 films per page. There are, all sorts of exploitation. X-ray. Yeah, I'm just flipping through here, but this is, 8 movies per, or 4 movies per page times this book is, 95 pages long.
Nice.
So, and that's Canon in 84. We're talking hundreds of movies in the catalog.
Yeah.
So when you look at a list of 200 movies on Wikipedia, that's not nearly complete.
It's a lot more.
It depends on how you qualify it. That's why in the books I just am tackling the ones that were produced in-house by Golem Globus, or they had picked up and kind of really tampered with and meddled with. So otherwise this would be like a George R.R. Martin like situation where people would be wondering if I'd ever even finish like writing this. Yeah. I would be in like Canon 19. It's like been a 7-year project, and I doubt I would even been to like 75 by like 1975 by this point.
And like we talked about backstage before we started the show, Brian Barr said, "I wonder what Canon Spider-Man would have looked like." Do you got any of the Spider-Man stuff flying around there?
I talked about that with Austin backstage. I'm like, because I told him like I don't know jack shit about Canon, like at all.
I know. So and forgive him, everybody watching, that he doesn't know anything about Canon. He's young.
I don't care. I don't care if anyone gives me shit. And I asked him because like I saw a commercial or a trailer, like some type of TV spot of Spider-Man, like the one that Canon was making, and then they canceled it.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that, and I really wish that film was made just so I can see it. And I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, that's why.
Well, yes. So Canon back in the mid '80s, it was a terrible time for Marvel, but Canon, Canon had stepped in and they were just trying to get money where they could. And so Canon bought the movie rights to Spider-Man and to Captain America. And Marvel had actually offered them all sorts of, basically everyone. Yeah. And for a song, for like not much, considering what's worth now, no one could predict that. But Canon just didn't think. They're like, oh, there was already a Hulk movie. They kind of considered that, but then the rest of them, they're like, nobody wants to see this stuff. So they ended up just buying those two. But Canon originally was going to be a Tobe Hooper project. There's always the story that goes around a lot is that when Menachem bought Spider-Man, he didn't know what Peter Parker, he didn't know the whole mythology of he never read the comic. Menachem gone when he bought this, when he signed the money, he thought Spider-Man was like Teen Wolf, like something like that, like man's like a
Really?
teenager who turns
What?
into a giant spider, which would explain why
Oh,
probably
what a
why he would have put
dumbass.
Toby Hooper on it really fast.
Exactly. That makes sense.
Ah.
But they got around. I mean, obviously, it was working with Marvel at that point, and they had the scripts that existed and that were made were much more the Peter Parker story we've seen on film several times now at this point. But Canon, yeah, they had several. They went through several directors for a while. Albert Pune was going to direct it. One of the things that since we're actually showing something is they actually produced crew jackets. Like the movie never went into production, but it's got a Delta Force 2 emotional.
Hey, that works either way.
That's cool.
But,
that's awesome though.
But yeah, so this is a crew jacket for a movie they never end up making. But yeah, copyright 19, or is the copyright on there? Yeah, well, it's got the copyright by Marvel Comics, all rights reserved, Canon logo. But yeah, like some of the executives at Canon got them. I'm sure Toby Hooper probably got one, and some of the Marvel higher ups
That's awesome.
received these jackets to celebrate the deal. And of course, the movie never materialized. Things just sort of in development hell for a while, and then Canon, they collapsed very spectacularly by the end of
They did.
By the end of 86 and early 7.
I want to say it seriously. Did someone actually think that Spider-Man or Peter Parker transformed into a tarantula or some shit?
That's what I hear.
Listen,
Malcolm.
that makes my skin crawl because I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
they got the character for so cheap too, which is
what?
Which is
How like for how much?
Gosh,
much?
I don't know the numbers offhand. I have to go in some notes. But
okay.
It was a song. But they've got here. There's American Ninja. I'm looking for this side.
This
Captain
is America.
An ad for their Captain America.
That looks cool.
They had tried to do that for a few years. So that was, I'm just seeing who at this one. At this point, it was being written by the same screenwriter as Revenge of the Ninja. James Silk. He also wrote Sahara for Canon. He wrote a bunch of stuff. There's no director attached to this one, but originally he was Michael Winner was attached for a long time, which he's famous for the Death Wish movies. Would have been interesting to see his version of Captain America.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah, for a little while, it was David Engelbach was offered, who had written the movies over the top. He had written the original draft of Death Wish 2, and he directed America 3000, which is a crazy, goofy Canon post-apocalyptic movie. And he had told me his idea was that Canon, he didn't think the Captain America script they had could be made on a Canon budget. And I have right here another piece of Captain America ephemera. This is one of their proposals, along with the ads and such. They would send these things out and try to get people to invest in the movies. But so this one is the Stephen Tolkien draft, directed by John Stockwell, who was an actor. He was in Top Gun. He was in Dangerously Close for Canon, and he ended up making his directing debut on Undercover, which is a 87 Canon movie. But yeah, and then eventually, when Menachem split from Canon, he went to 21st Century Pictures, and he got the rights to Captain America. Those came with him, and they made it there in 1990 with Albert Pune as the director. That's
this is something we've heard about, the connection between Master of the Universe sequel and Captain America. Now, we've heard that Master of the Universe 2 actually became Cyborg, but I've heard, and that's why I wish Tom was here, because Tom knows about this. He's been looking into this, that possibly some of the stuff that they were going to do in Master of the Universe Part 2 ended up as some of the main story for Captain America with Albert Pune. So have you heard anything about that from Canon?
So what I know from the story is, yes, they planned on a Masters 2. they had some costumes. Some of the costumes you end up seeing in Cyborg, you recognize from Masters.
Yes.
They had actually been building sets in the old Dino De Laurentiis studios down in the Carolinas, and so they had the sets for Spider-Man. The whole idea was that they were going to, and this is such a typical Canon story, is they were going to shoot the beginning of Spider-Man with like the weak Peter Parker, teenager, weakling. They were then going to break to shoot Masters Universe 2, which they were going to do basically in the same place, same director, Howard Pune.
Yeah.
And while they were shooting that for however many weeks, the Spider-Man actor was just going to get extremely jacked. He was just going to work out as hard as he could. And then when they came back to shoot the rest of the scenes, they would shoot him as a Spider-Man, and he would have some like muscle from this sort of like hardcore working out. But the checks to Mattel, the check to Marvel all bounced, and Canon was basically crumbling. So they couldn't make, they didn't have the right, they couldn't make those movies anymore. And
so we were supposed to get a roided up Spider-Man.
Well, I probably.
Oh, that would have been epic.
I mean, I don't know how they would make that transformation without some steroid help. And this was the 80s. They would
he would have been jacked.
Yeah.
That would have been freaking amazing though.
But so what happened was Canon, you had these sets that they started building for Cyborg. You have these costumes leftover from the first Masters and Masters 2. And they didn't know, they're like, oh, let's try to recoup some of these losses. So Albert Pune went down there and banged out the draft for Cyborg super fast. And Van Damme was somebody that they had just done Bloodsport with, and they had an option with him to do another movie, and he chose the Cyborg script. So that's why when you're watching Cyborg, if you see the main bad guy played by Vincent Klin, the main villain, he's got the chainmail. If you look closely at that chainmail, there's a character in the original Masters universe named Blade, played by Anthony DeLongis. And he's like Skeletor's henchman. He's wearing the same chainmail vest. It's the exact same costume. They're just reusing it for both, because like all the costumes that were left over from Masters got shipped out to do Masters 2. And that's why also in Cyborg, you have these scenes. If you look in the back of some of the battles, especially the really rainy, wet battle, the famous one where Van Damme's kicking around in the water, you can see it kind of looks like New York City, like a fake little, like very quaint New York City. And that was because those were the sets that they were starting to build for the Daily Bugle.
Oh, really? That's crazy. So that you can spot Spider-Man sets in Cyborg. So that's pretty cool. So
Master Universe costumes.
That's cool. So have you heard anything about the story for Master of the Universe being used on Captain America with Albert Pune?
To be honest, I don't know too much about that offhand.
You don't know too much about that.
I can read you what Canon wanted their idea of the Captain America script. If you want to hear a few nuggets.
You can give us a few bit of it.
Well, so I'm looking for one part here. Oh, so Hitler has his plans to retaliate. This is after America makes Captain America to go kill Hitler.
Yeah.
Hitler has his plans to retaliate. He has developed his own human weapon, the Red Skull, an evil supervillain who has been trained to destroy Captain America and bring the U.S. to its knees. When the Germans launch a missile towards Washington, Captain America courageously rides the rocket, steering it away from the capital and into the North Pole. That's where he gets buried. But it comes back later on. They wake up Captain America. Red Skull's still around. Unwilling to admit defeat, Red Skull devises an even more demented scheme. He plots to poison all of America's reservoirs. And that's really all we get. This is it's not really too surprising that people weren't willing to invest in a Canon superhero movie, especially after what they had to show was Superman 4.
Yes, and we'll get that Superman 5 just a quick little bit, because I know you don't know too much about it. But yeah, Tom was trying to said he found a connection. That's why I really wish he was here. That between this,
wake up, Tom.
It's like Red Skull. The character of Red Skull was elements of Skeletor from like the possible sequel with what they were going to do So I wish he was here because he had been researching that. He has been researching that. So I know he wanted to talk to you, but I bet he's asleep.
I wish I was more prepared for that end.
That's all right, man. We'll have you back on again anytime you want it. So hopefully Tom will be awake then. And so Superman 5. I mean, yes. I know a lot of people like even Brian Barth has said, how Superman 4 even get made. So like I know there's not a whole lot about Superman 5, but what can you tell us?
No, I'm looking for it here, but I found another.
Oh, I love Invaders from Mars, though. I know you're talking about Captain America with Invaders from Mars. I saw that.
Yeah, but let's see. Superman 5. Yeah, Superman 5. I'm looking for a ad for you here. Canon announced it really before Superman 4 could come out and be a complete kind of train wreck from a
I've seen clips of it, and I don't want to watch it. Like it just looks like, I mean, the Nuclear Man shit. I'm just like, yeah.
Hey, Nuclear Man was probably the best part of that.
Well, I know you'd like that movie. It looks like watching the clips.
Superman 5, and they announced it before even Superman 4 had begun.
Yeah, well,
this is why you don't announce shit when it's not even like close to like being finished.
Yeah, it happens.
There's really not that much about it because Superman 4 was such a disappointment for everyone, and especially so Canon had worked so hard to get Christopher Reeve to get him to come back for it, and part of it was they paid him a ton of money, and which obviously is a good good way to talk some people into something. But he also got to bring a pet project of his, which is a movie called Street Smart, which is actually a fantastic movie. It got Morgan Freeman his first Oscar nomination, but Canon made it and then really didn't promote it. So Reeve was already unhappy at that point.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
In the very
Go on.
In the end of Superman 4, like, isn't the ending like the exact same shot as the ending in the first one? I'm pretty sure I've seen a video of that.
It's similar, but it's reshot.
I don't think it was
how the thing ends exactly. I know it's him flying with the little boy, like out in outer space, and
I thought it was the same exact scene where he flies up in space, like he did in the first one. I'm pretty sure that's
it's been a while since I've seen it, but I do like Part 4. By the way, I know we got some fans of Part 4, not the crowd here. So
4 was a movie. Yeah, that was another one that the rights holders. Superman 3 had been a disappointment, and I mean it's not as good as 1 and 2, and 2 had its own production problems with Richard Donner.
Yes,
but 3, they kind of, the rights holders, the Salkins, thought they had a case of diminishing returns. They didn't think it was worth sinking the money into a 4 Superman movie if the how much money they made off of them continued to sink down. So they shopped it around, and Canon came and bought the rights right up. And yeah, they were able to get Reeve to come back, even though Reeve said he was never going to do it again. He felt he aged out of the role. He thought he was too old to play Clark Kent at that point. And he wears a wig at points to have that sort of like boyish hairline. Yeah. And he's got a hairpiece. And Canon, actually, by the time they went to shoot it, they were in such financial despair that they were slashing the budget before they even got started. And you have a lot of the special effects guys that they had lined up who had worked on the earlier movies just running for the hills, just badly fleeing because they're not going to, they knew that this movie was going to look terrible, but Reeve was on the hook. So he stuck through it and he made it. And there's actually, somebody had commented that it's a really good comic booky movie. Somebody here, but it's a great, I think that's a great comment. There's actually they made a tie-in comic based on the full script before things got.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, got cut up.
There's that.
Yeah, DC did a Superman 4 movie special, and it's like an extra fat 80s comic book somewhere in this pile here. But read it if you can. Like if you're a Superman 4 fan and you can find it, it's usually, one of those dollar bins at like Comic Cons and comic shops. But
I know it's got Bizarro in it.
Well, it's got it's the other there's two Nuclear Men.
Yeah, it's the first Nuclear Man. He's similar to Bizarro or whatever.
He's goofy. He's really goofy. Yeah. And like he got cut out. You can find his scenes on YouTube because Warner Brothers was involved. It's one of the rare Canon movies where like extra like cut stuff still exists, because at Canon itself that stuff tend to go in a dumpster, which is sad nowadays in the DVD and physical media age.
This is crazy.
But yeah, so the Superman 4 comic book is a lot of fun. Oh, awesome.
Yes, it is. Make sure the sound is down on this runner, because I don't want to get the claim for the music.
Look, it's muted. You see that?
Okay,
Smart.
Just want to make sure there.
Yeah, I know. The exact same ending. Look, he does the same thing. That is not reshot. That is
either just they reused it or they reshot it.
Yeah, they reused it. It.
Man, I told you it's been a while since I've seen part 4.
And look, there it says Superman 4, The Quest for Suck. There you go.
So the
quest piece is not that bad.
I've seen clips of it. Looks
Nuclear Man. So the actor who played the Nuclear Man who remained in the movie, there were originally 2. The first one got cut, but he was a Chippendales dancer who went to the gym with one of the guys involved in the production and got him the interview. But yeah, when they went to actually edit the movie together, when they went to make the movie, they had Gene Hackman voicing him. So this guy was sort of lip syncing to Gene Hackman's voice, and it's a crazy effect. It's a crazy effect. Mark Pillow was the actor's name.
Yes.
I have a very unpopular opinion. I like Gene Hackman a lot. I don't like him as Lex. It's not Lex Luthor to me.
We know. You don't like the Superman movie.
It's not.
Get it.
No.
You gotta watch 4 then.
I like Christopher Reeve as Superman. I do. I like Christopher Reeve as Superman, but like, you got to be honest with yourself.
I'm telling you right now, Runner, if Tom was here right now, you'd be getting a verbal beatdown for saying that stuff. I'm much more nicer. I'll handle your opinions, but I don't believe it. I don't have the same opinion as you.
I think I've said it to Tom before.
Yeah, he'd give you a verbal beatdown, man.
That's not the Lex Luthor. Like, my favorite Lex Luthor is the one in the animated shit. Like Clancy Brown. That's Lex Luthor.
That's fine.
You can at least admit that, right, Scene?
I mean,
I can't. I mean, he's an awesome Lex Luthor, but I wouldn't say he's my favorite.
What?
I'm a Donner versus Christopher Reeve fan. I think Lex Luthor, Gene Hackman.
Listen, Clancy Brown is the Kevin Conroy of Lex Luthor.
He's a great Superman, Lex Luthor, but I grew up on the Reeves movies. So.
Clancy Brown, this is a fact, okay? Clancy Brown is the Kevin Conroy for Lex Luthor.
See, look, you got Dan Black right now. Let's not have Runner start talking about Man of Steel again.
I wasn't going to talk about Man of Steel, but if you want me to, I can.
No, I'm going to actually share my first pick. I'm actually going to share my first pick that I have tonight, since Austin's here, and it will help continue the canon conversation.
All right,
because that's why we're here. So I'm going to blow up my screen here. This is a canon film that was Dracula.
Oh yeah.
I love Dracula. It's a great movie. It was shot in 88, but was delayed and dumped on the home video in the 90s. So do you have any stories on Dracula that you can tell me?
Well, let me see if I have any Dracula stuff to show off.
Now, while you're looking for that, I'll explain this to Runner. Dracula is a story about a 400-year-old vampire who has been cursed to fall in love. He's 400 years old, but he's still like a teenager, sort of like maybe a little past your age, in his 20s. He still lives with his mom, who's also a vampire. He's cursed to fall in love with the same woman on Halloween every 22 years, and she gets killed by a one-legged pirate with rhinestones every Halloween night, and he can never save her. So he hasn't scored in over 400 years, and that's the plot of the movie. It's a comedy, and he's a really bad vampire. He doesn't like to drink blood. He's goofy. It's a great movie. But Austin, do you have?
It's a fun movie, and it's got some great
as
pop
in,
stars in it.
What
It's
do you
great
mean by
cheesy
what
movie.
do you mean? I was gonna say, what do you mean by great?
Well, to me, it's a great movie. To you, it's probably like, what am I even watching? But yeah, go ahead, Austin.
Listen, there are some like cheesy shit I like, and then there's some I don't. Like there's some I can't handle. Like I remember when I think Tom I don't know, this isn't canon, but like like Greg and Tom convinced me to watch Tammy and the T-Rex. I was mind fucked.
That's a great movie.
I was mind fucked at the end. I was like, holy crap, this is so
It's a great movie.
It's definitely a great bad movie. But
Yes.
it is, that third act is a mind fuck, dude.
It's a great movie. And what's up, VHS, Mikey? Glad you're here. I hope you're enjoying the Canon fun. So, Austin, you got some stuff on Dracula?
Yeah, well, again, like I got to dig.
I mean, I know you did. I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
It's okay, but yeah, Dracula's a fun movie, and it's a fun movie. Some good. I mean, it's got Tony Basil in it.
Yes,
the Hey Mickey lady, who is also a great dance choreographer, and it has Thomas Dolby, the blinded me with science guy. It's got just it's a lot of fun. Dean Cameron is.
I mean, I loved him as in Summer School. Man, he's great. He's a great vampire, and he plays dual roles in this too. It's pretty cool because he plays the cooler version of himself in the mirror world, and then he plays the nerdy vampire really well. He plays him really well, so it's pretty cool.
It's one of the. I think it's one of those underrated gems, and because it sort of sat for a little while, it didn't get quite the attention.
It did. But I mean, it's such a great movie. I really loved it. And this is, speaking of, like we talked earlier, it's a Scream Factory. So, and I believe this, if anybody hasn't picked up the Blu-ray of this, it is going out of print on Scream Factory. So, which means the price on this will shoot up after a while. So,
they're missing action, I think, is on that endangered list. Rapid is another one that Shout put out that should grab while you can, because I don't think anyone's gonna ever bother with a Rapid 4K.
I don't think they'll ever remake that again now. So and welcome Victor Fontaine. I like Clancy Brown as Lex in the animated Justice League episodes too. So yeah, there you go. And welcome Cosmic Squirrel. Glad you're here.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And
Victor.
Sandra Jordan. I'm not sure, is that Vum today? I'm not sure if that's if I mispronounce anything, I apologize, Sandra. But yes, VHS Mikey, he gets it. Dracula is a blast. So it was actually filmed in 1988. What's his name is in it? It's awesome. I just lost his Bo Diddley. Bo Diddley is in this movie. And that is so cool. Bo Diddley and Tony Basil, and her little dance she does is crazy. But it's awesome. I really love that movie. It's just a fun, just like good-hearted, cheesy movie. And it's a shame that they made it in 1988. Canon went out of business. I think not long after that. So it was like just dumped onto VHS, I wish I could get the VHS of it personally. I really, really, that would be an awesome VHS to have. So yes, I'm good to that. Runner, I know we're talking about Canon here, but I know you got a couple picks, so let's see one of your first picks here we can talk about it. And then we'll get back to Canon, everybody.
I put Dracula on my wish list on Shout.
It's good. It's a good one. It's a good, cheesy, fun movie.
I'll buy it I'll buy it whenever I get my paycheck. So
it's got some interesting musical numbers in it.
All right, so this is a non-canon film. I watched it recently. It's a horror film. I'm pretty sure Greg has seen it. It's directed by James Wan. Saw.
Oh, Saw. Yeah, I've seen the original Saw. It's the best one.
It's the only one I've seen. It's good.
It's the best one of them. I mean, after that is just how much can they torture people just to show stuff, basically. Have you seen? You've seen? I would assume you've seen this, Austin.
Yeah. That was at least the first one. I don't know the sequels, but that was I saw that in Union Square in New York City when it came out. So that was always a always, I don't know, a movie like that. It's always fun to see in a big
big
metropolitan
theater like
area. Yeah, because you get people shouting at it. You got it's the movies were always these sold out. And just great experiences. That was, and Saw was one that was like people, there's so much gore and terrible things happening. People, jumping, shouting, yelling at the screen.
The part where that one dude cuts his foot off with a saw. Oh
he was going to get out of there.
I know. Oh my God, that twist at the end too.
Yeah, that's the best of the Saw. Trust me. After that, I mean, they kind of just basically it's gore for the sake of gore. Yeah, they kind of just go downhill.
I mean, are they good though?
I would say up to 3. They really should have ended it at 3 because they do something in part 3. I don't want to spoil it for you. I know they've been out for a long time, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's never seen them. I mean, there's something that happens in part 3 that pretty much ends the Saw franchise right in that movie, but they continued on for like 5 more.
And
So-
didn't they have some spin-off with Chris Rock?
Yeah, Chris Rock came back and did Spiral, which is it's
Spiral.
set in the world. It's like a copycat killer. So, but yeah, there's that. But Austin, you got any more canon stuff for us that you want to go?
Oh yeah, I got plenty. If I am grabbing movies, oh God, where do I even start? For just grabbing tapes, actually, this is one that I did not get to talk about in the books because it's not Golem Globus produced. It was just a Canon production, but very formative movie in my Canon life career. It is Hell Squad.
Hell Squad. I don't think I've actually seen this one.
Yeah, it is one of 2 movies directed by from filmmaker Ken Hartford, and that Canon picked up and distributed. So the tagline here, in case you can see it, is "Showgirl." Well, it's very clear. But showgirls by night, showgirls by night, commandos by day. You find them on the chorus lines or on the battle lines.
Oh, I'm definitely getting this movie.
Yeah, so this is a movie that the whole plot is this diplomat or this politician. I can't remember the exact status, but his the kidnapped him or a family member, and the U.S. is only, for some reason, very forced reason, their only plan of events to rescue him is to hire all these Vegas showgirls, basically strippers, and train them to be the world's best commandos. And so what's amazing is they do it in like 2 weeks. And what just strikes me as funny is if they can train a dozen Vegas showgirls to become the most effective commandos in like the U.S. military in 2 weeks, why don't they train everybody like that?
I don't know, but this movie sounds awesome. I'm totally getting it.
It's so cheesy, so ridiculous. But yeah, Canon picked it up and
you had me at Vegas showgirls trained by the military. So
this was actually probably the first piece of Canon physical media that I actually owned. I bought this tape out of like a cardboard box at a flea market in like the early 90s for, I remember it was like $5, which
you got lucky. I bet that thing's like going for $100 now.
I don't think about I maybe, but I
trust me.
I doubt that. But I picked it up and it was something that would go to like sleepovers because you get a bunch of teen boys. They're something about showgirl commandos is just perfect.
You sold me. Well, I hit the wrong button there. you sold me on that movie. I'm definitely getting that movie. I will be looking for that. I will be looking for that.
It's not covered in the books simply because I told you I had to draw that barrier with the Golem and Globus, but it's so good and so fun.
I'm checking it out. That's going to be part of my weekend watch because I typically don't get to watch a whole lot of movies through the week. So when I get to my weekend, that's going on my list of watching. So I'm going to find that and I'm definitely watch that because you sold me on that movie. I've never seen that, and yeah, trust me, I've been starting to collect VHSs again. And man, the world of VHS is crazy now. The grade VHSs, I guarantee you that tape is probably worth a lot of money.
So a lot. this is something is like I was very like I bought VHS, especially back when DVDs started beginning, and like they just needed the room in the shops, like all the local mom and pop shops we still had at the time. They were clearing out their inventories, so I would collect tapes at that point, and this was probably 98, 99, and so I had quite a few, and especially it was horror tapes, and it was something that like it's not something I set out to collect. It was just like it was cheaper than DVDs at the time.
Yeah.
But about like 2015, 2016, I needed money to fund this project because I'm collecting these catalogs and posters and all this stuff that you see in the books, this Canon things. I needed money for that, and I was able to sell the collection of horror tapes, and I was amazed by how much I was able to get for it then. But that collection, which some of those tapes I still think about, and I'm sad I don't have, but they funded this project.
Well, awesome. Granted, it does suck when you have to get rid of your awesome horror VHS tapes, but you got these books, and these books are awesome. So
yeah, it was a worthwhile trade-off. I was just the other day, before we were going to talk, I went to look at, I had a lunch meat. It was a big box horror tape, big, large man with a arm that he's chewing on. And it was like tapeworm or tape head or something video. And that I remember selling, it was like 250 or something on Facebook back in the day. And it was crazy. I couldn't believe that. That was like the most money I'd ever sold anything for. Yeah. And now I looked on eBay and they're like, there's like a one copy in Canada for like 1,400 Canadian dollars or something. Yeah, I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah, they're expensive. I love it too. I mean, what do you got there?
This is for our commenter. This is the Revenge of the Ninja, the book box MGM release. This is also another important one for me because this is like, in my opinion, one of the best movie covers of all time. And my eyes were just drawn to this.
Yes.
You've got this ninja who's flying over a city that if you watch the movie, you realize that's Salt Lake City, not a place that many ninja films are set. He's firing a gun and throwing ninja stars at once. He's so high up in the air. He's either flying or being dropped from a helicopter. I don't know how you get this this sort of view on this ninja, but it's personally my favorite Canon movie. So it's awesome. The guy who got to see it in Williamsburg. I didn't have the video stores. I mean the movie theaters close by, and my dad wouldn't have taken me to see this, sadly. But it was something that like when it was out on VHS, like the martial arts movies were on the bottom shelf in the store, like beneath like regular action. So this was like right at my eye level as a kid, and I saw it every time. And when I got old enough to rent it, I would rent it over and over again.
Yes,
it was just what, and it's to this day, anyone asks my personal favorite Canon movie, that's Revenge of the Ninja is the easiest one to say.
It's a great movie. It's a great movie too. So yes, and VHS Mikey says definitely missing everything was 25 cents when and Cosmic Squirrel says sounds like fantastic cheese. I love it. I think he was talking about Hell Squad there. Yes, and VHS Mikey snagging up DVD while I can. Yes, while you cheap, because sometimes like I've said it before and I've talked about it here before. It's like there's so many movies that were put out on VHS that never were carried over to DVD, and we're losing those movies. And there's so many movies that were put on DVD that aren't being carried over to Blu-ray or 4K, and we're going to start losing those movies. So snag them up. I know we talk a lot about 4K on here because 4K is awesome. We love 4K. But if you get a chance to snag up some VHSs or DVDs that you can't find a Blu-ray or 4K of, do that. You get that because you may never have that movie upgraded into streaming, into Blu-ray, 4K. So I'd definitely say do that.
Yeah, there's actually an article went up today. I think it was up on The Guardian about the Missing Movies Project. I'm probably butchering the name, but it's a group that's looking into movies that like have weird rights issues. Yeah, and there are some Canon movies that have that issue now, but the quote that stuck out to me is that people talk about how 70% of silent movies, that's what everyone says, 70% of silent movies are lost. And the person they were interviewing for this article had said probably at this point 70% of all movies in the history aren't not lost, but are in some sort of rights limbo, aren't currently available through streaming or a way you can get them, which is insane to think about. And I mean, working on these books, I would say there are some movies that the VHS, the original rental VHS tapes are the last home video release from a VHS tape from 84, 85. That was pretty scarce to find back then. Thank goodness people put stuff on YouTube, but even there's a movie in the second book that I was so excited to finally find because it took me years and years of searching for it, but called Kimura. And it's by Lena Wertmuller, who's the first woman to be nominated for Academy Award, I believe. And it's a gangster movie, an Italian gangster movie with like a bunch of slasher elements. It's got the black gloved killer in it. Harvey Keitel plays a pimp in it. It's just a crazy movie. And it's so the only copy I could get was literally a bootleg DVD ordered from a German website that had burned in, it was a VHS rip with burned in Greek subtitles. And I'm like, this is a movie that Vinegar gets, that like seems like perfect for someone like Vinegar Syndrome or Canon or somebody, or one of my favorite Fun City Editions, my new favorite label, should come out in the last couple of years, like someone like them, like who could really resurrect it, because there are so many movies. And again, as the years go by, like you can't keep everything in print, sadly, but
that's true. That's why I agree, man. If you can find these movies, pick them up and buy them, because it's like he just said. I mean, even if you have to get like the DVD with burned in Greek subtitles, you get that movie because you may never see that movie again. So
what I wonder now is, like, as I'm like my own physical media collection and sort of calling it, I wonder if someday, if DVDs get to where like people sort of like have the whole romanticize them like the same like they do the VHS, this sort of like fetishized like collector's mentality around them. I wonder if the cardboard like snapcase ones will be like the equivalent of like the large box VHS tapes in collector circles.
And you never know. It may know. But we do have a $10 super chat here from VHS Mikey. Thank you, VHS Mikey. I appreciate that. It says, excellent show. Dig the vibes here. Super down to earth dudes. Thank you, man. And I would like to have you on here one day. VHS Mikey is great. You guys need to check out VHS Mikey's channel. Dude is just like covers massive amounts of VHS with a great style. He's funny. He's great. I'll put your link in the chat here in a minute. But usually around here, when you give a super chat, you get to play a little clip I get to play you a little clip that I have on the side here. So for that super chat, I'll give you Champagne and Bullets. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the releases I had to order. I mean, I love Wings Hauser in anything. He's one of my personal heroes.
Yes, and Wings Hauser, I swear, Wing Hauser in that movie is just making crap up. I really think he's just making his own lines up. It's like whenever, when he's there on the day, either he was saying what was written or he just was like, I'm just going to say what I want to say. So, he's great. He's probably the best person in that in that movie.
So I see. I want to come back to Wings because I've got some fun Wing stories. But I see somebody had mentioned the Naked Cage. I was looking for it here.
Yes. 4K Cinema mentioned he also saw the Naked Cage. So go ahead.
So here is a early Naked. Well, I'm trying to show. I'm so backwards right now.
It happens.
The world's worst weatherman or game show presenter. But the Naked Cage, just an early ad for it. Like none of those actresses are actually in it, but yeah, great. I mean, a very fun women in prison movie in the 80s. The actually like one of Quentin Tarantino's personal favorites, which shocks me from the Canon catalog. They just had a big over in Israel, a big festival showing Canon movies there. And Quentin Tarantino flew out for it and got to curate the movies. And he picked, I think, 8 Canon movies to show over 4 nights. And Naked Cage was one of them. And he actually, they show it at his theater out in Los Angeles every now and then, his personal like film print of it. So that's kind of cool. Lisa London is someone I've interviewed a few times now, and is an absolutely like wonderful woman, and like such a sweet person to interview. But she was in that movie. She was in the Happy Hooker Goes Hollywood for Canon, and she had some fun stories about that movie. But she's also very very surprised that it's had the second life that it has, that people have been rediscovering it, because sometimes people would make these movies in the 80s and then think nothing would come of them, and then they would go.
Right.
But that one has had legs. It's continued to have a life almost 40 years later.
That's cool.
I see a question. A Canon movie marathon. I would
have you ever
love to. I would love to do it somewhere, especially like New York, because I live out in Connecticut, and I lived in New York for years and years and years.
I live near Chicago. Can you make that happen?
I mean, I will, if somewhere was like a venue is willing to host something, that I would love to do a marathon. But yeah, like New York, especially with the second book out. The first book had the unfortunate timing of dropping in June. It was announced like really right as soon as the pandemic broke. Like everything was, and then June of 2020, when you couldn't do any events. So now that the second one will be out for this summer, I'm really hoping to do events somewhere. Like New York would be an easy place, because I'm just a train ride away, and
yeah, you're right.
I still have I still have friends and family in New York, so
yeah.
Either like an AMC would be incredible. 42nd Street would be a perfect place.
That would be amazing.
But there's like the Nighthawk or Alamo. I don't know how to go about that, but
yeah,
that'd be amazing. I would love to do
that. Would be
like
amazing. That'd be cool. It's like a whole night Canon.
Well, I've got posters.
You think you can do the IMAX format? I'm not sure if you can, but that would be a little too much.
I mean, maybe. Some of these, it depends on what you have. I mean, some of these film prints are available for rental. Some probably the best copy of the Blu-ray, but a lot of, like we said, a lot of the stuff is still VHS. Like you got to really hunt for.
Yeah.
But yeah, if a place wanted to host, like I have these posters. Like this is I think a Spanish Delta Force poster behind me, but some of these like Ninja 3, The Domination. I've got, I think, 7 different posters from 7 different countries with different art. So
that's awesome.
If there's ever a venue that wanted to host a Canon marathon, you could do a whole like retro, like
you got them covered
with all of the original art and lobby cards and stuff like that.
That's cool.
That would be fun. Hopefully I can try to do something like that.
Yeah, hopefully with your second book, and it gains traction for you and stuff,
Fingers crossed.
Runner, you want to share your second pick of the night before we because I know you don't have the Canon stuff, so no. Go, let's see what you got.
This might be close to the Canon stuff, but like you'll understand what I mean when I show this. As of recently, Batman has been pretty huge for a variety of reasons. So I got this.
Oh, the 66 Batman. Nice.
Oh yeah.
That's the whole series.
That's correct. It's the complete television series with Adam West and Burt Ward as Batman and Robin.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Adam West.
Have you watched them? Have you watched any of it?
Well, I watched like the reruns, obviously, on and I watched like the first few. I think I watched the first 3 episodes. The first 2 of season 1 are with the Riddler, and I saw the one with the Penguin, which was like the next one. But of course I watched the movie when I was young.
I love the movie. The movie is great.
The movie.
Shark repellent. I just love it.
Oh yeah, I'll have to rewatch it. I mean, I do like. I grew up with Adam West as the mayor from Family Guy, so that's partially why I have a soft spot for him as Batman.
It's Canon related too. Adam West made 2 movies for Canon. at a point in his career where I think he was happy to do anything that wasn't just showing up in the bat suit at a car show with the Batmobile to like
Yeah,
pose for pictures. But
it's true.
he was in Happy Hooker Goes Hollywood, which is one of the first Golden Globus canon pictures. But Adam West is in drag in that one. In case that's something you've ever been curious to see. And he did he plays an alien in a movie called Doing Time on Planet Earth, which is
Those are awesome.
yeah, it's like one of those fun canon movies. If you liked Dracula, you'd probably enjoy Doing Time.
Yeah.
I probably would.
And Greg
I love all
and
kinds of stuff like that.
Greg and Tom know this, but Frank Gorshin, who plays the Riddler, went to school with my grandfather.
Yeah. So
wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I think
Tyrell 72.
I forgot what school it was in. I was gonna say I forgot what school he was in, but I think like my grandfather was
You keep talking around there. I was just going to why he holds that up.
His major was like art or something, and then Frank Gorshin, of course, was doing like acting or something. So yeah, it's cool stuff. My mom told me because it's my mom's dad. So yeah, and I was like, really? Like that's cool.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. But Runaway Train. Runaway Train is one of Canon's most prestigious. I don't have that's another great big box. I don't have that one. That's in my dresser. I have an actually closed dresser that I store all my Canon VHS tapes in, so I can easily like pull out a shelf and find them. But Runaway Train is directed by Andrei Konchalovsky, first Soviet director to really make a Hollywood movie back then. So that was a big deal. He had made Maria's Lovers for them first, and then Runaway Train. But Runaway Train was John Voight and Eric Roberts, and they both got Oscar nominations for that. And that was a huge deal for Canon in 1985. They didn't win, but that was the credibility that Canon was really, really craving at that time, and convinced a lot of other filmmakers, a lot of actors who would not have necessarily wanted to work with a company they saw as just doing exploitation movies. That convinced them to go to Canon and take these projects sort of there. That's Canon ended up making projects with Robert Altman, John Cassavetes and stuff, all in this mid-'80s period. Jean-Luc Godard did a Canon film. Just people
Jean-Luc
that you would.
But yeah, I get you, man.
Fucking nerd.
They actually, at that point, I'll dig for it in a moment here, but they had movies that they had signed on both Dustin Hoffman and Al Pacino to do.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
A little bit off topic, but do you mind if I comment on Brian Barth's comment on the '60s Batman show not affecting Batman in film?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead real quick, and then
because
I got something to show. And then we'll talk more.
Didn't it kind of affect it though?
I don't know. I know when Tim Burton did his Batman, he wanted to go darker. He wanted to go to the Frank Miller.
Yeah, I know.
And
I know
even
that.
Adam West auditioned to play Batman, and
because I'll tell you this, because not everyone has seen the Batman.
I haven't.
One that came out. I know you haven't. I think you should, but I'm not gonna go full. But like, there's one scene in particular in that I feel like is a little nod to Adam West Batman in terms of like the humor. You might know what that scene is if you've seen. Like he basically knocks on a door to get into a club, and like talks to like two of Penguin's goons to get in and stuff. Like instead of just sneaking in the building, he literally just goes up the front door and enters in. It's like that would be more of like an Adam West kind of humor thing, except it wasn't humor. Like that. It was a little nod like that I kind of picked off of. So I think
I haven't seen the movie, so yeah, probably.
Well, I'm just saying if you watch it, you might know what I'm talking about. Like that little nod. I was wondering if Matt Reeves was going towards this, because he says he grew up with the '60s Batman stuff in like interviews.
I'm sure there's probably, I mean, if you grew up with it, there's probably stuff in the movie because that tends to affect filmmakers. I've talked to filmmakers, you know, whatever they grew up like. I talked to the Shifley brothers who did Die in a Gunfight. The director, Colin Shifley, the director, he's heavily influenced by the Ninja Turtles from the 1990s. So there's a nod to the Ninja Turtles movies in every one of his films. So I'm sure if that like influenced him, if there's a part of that that's in the movie. So
yeah, like that was just something I picked off of. So no, because the comment I'm really going towards is, I would say the most recent Batman that came out was a little bit influenced just by that one scene alone.
It could be.
That I picked off of.
VHS Mikey says the engines on the Batmobile. So,
oh yeah, the Batmobile. Yeah, I would say. I mean, the Batmobile to me is like a shorter version of Paul Dini's a little bit. I mean, some people might disagree with me on that, but like the back part, especially the wings, the wing, like the the wingtail parts of the Batmobile are very Paul Dini to me.
Yeah,
but it's more of a muscle car
but
kind of
like
thing.
I said, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really talk about I can't really talk much about it. But for my
I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, let's see what you got here, man. That's I mean, good observation. I mean,
4K. I see the comment on the Breaking movies.
Breaking to Electric Boogaloo. Speaking of which, sort of goes along with sort of what I have here, sort of. But I have my big DVD box set of Canon here. Bombs, Babes, and blockbusters of Canon films. And this has Missing in Action, Invasion USA, Cobra, Delta Force, Masters of the Universe, which I also have on Blu-ray. Most of these I do have on Blu-ray too. So Over the Top, Bloodsport, The Hitman, Hellbound, which I haven't seen Hellbound. I've actually been wanting to watch that, so I'm looking forward to getting into that one. And then, of course, Electric Boogaloo, the wild, untold story of Canon films. So let's hear your thoughts on some of this, Austin.
It's a great value set.
Is that available?
Yeah, you can get this at Walmart for $20.
I've never seen it at Walmart.
On that set.
That's where I found this.
Like
at Walmart for $20.
Like at a store. Like you actually went
Walmart
in,
store.
you didn't buy it online from Walmart?
No, because I don't usually buy from Walmart because Walmart doesn't have a good selection of anything. But once I was there one day, I saw this and I picked it up.
No, I agree. Their selection sucks most of the time. If you have a shit ton of physical media, if you're starting off, I would say Walmart's a good place to start. But that's like for beginners, and then you start to move up to Best Buy, which is where I'm at because they have the good shit. Maybe not your Best Buy, but I have the best Best Buy.
Not my Best Buy, no. But any thoughts on this, on any of these Canon stuff, or even the Electric Boogaloo documentary?
Yeah, that set is worth it. I mean, it's awesome value, but just alone for the Electric Boogaloo documentary, that Mark Hartley and his team did some amazing work, just getting so many people to talk about Canon who worked with Canon and putting it all together in such an entertaining way. And that documentary was a huge inspiration for me because I was thinking, I mean, I had this idea, I was working on these Canon essays, and then that documentary came out and it sort of showed me that other people, like there was so much excitement around it, not just from the people who were fans of that particular documentary and talking about it, but the people who were in the documentary. And I thought, this is something worth doing. Like that proved to me that there was still like, I wasn't just the only crazy Canon fan out there, which I was afraid at the time that like, am I writing something that like only
trust me, there's a lot of us out there that still love Canon.
Yeah, it's definitely surprised me, but that just for that documentary alone, I think that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of that on a physical disc right now is in that set. And then you get all those movies with it. And that's all the Warner Brothers, all from the Warner Brothers rights, because Canon, when they dissolved, because they sold their movies in so many places they distributed, most of them ended up with MGM, which now is maybe with Amazon. I don't know.
Amazon,
I don't know how they're licensing, but
I think they just all their stuff now.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like licensing things from them, and I don't know what that means for the future of these movies on physical media. But Warner Brothers also later on, especially when Stallone came into the picture, came in and Canon sort of gave them the rights to a lot of their future films with the plans that they needed money to make Over the Top. So in exchange for Warner Brothers coming in and helping them make Over the Top and distributing a bunch of these movies, Canon, the Warner Home Video got a lot of these video rights. Like they got Bloodsport through that, which is
yeah,
I think made it worth however much money they dumped in Over the Top.
Yeah. Do you have any like over the top stuff around you?
Oh yeah. Let me
over top Cobra.
Yeah. Those are both interesting. So I talk about those a lot in the second. That was right during the period that's covered in the second volume, 85 to 87. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, this is a 2-page spread. It was a big deal. But so Cobra is an interesting case because it's a very like it has Golden Globus name on there. It has the Canon logo on it, but Golden Globus really had nothing to do with the film. It was a Warner Brothers production. But so in 1984, Canon had basically went to Stallone and they want to make a movie. We want to make a movie with you. He was the biggest star of that time, really, at least for the kind of movies Canon was making. And he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it until they offered him $12 million, which for one single movie to make what was Over the Top. And so Canon made this big splash by making Sylvester Stallone the highest paid actor of all time to that point. But the thing was, Canon didn't have that money. They had that was going into all these other films. They kind of just kept this cycle. They didn't have that cash sitting around to give Stallone. So in reality, they gave Stallone $500,000, and they took the idea out to all the markets to get them to pay for it. They started getting product placement before they even had a script in place, which is crazy. That's why you have so many products that are like very like specific in the scenes, but they were like, we don't have the script fully written, but we will write your product into here now, like stuff like that. But they still didn't have enough money because they did the 12 million. They needed another 13 million to actually make the film. All the everything else that goes into making it. Half of the money went to Stallone, half would go to this other stuff. And it was an exclusive contract. It'd been all over the papers. And so Stallone was went around. He made some other movies. He made a Rambo movie then. But then it came time for him to make Over the Top. They still didn't have the money, and he was just sort of sitting around. And he had Cobra, which had been started as as the Beverly Hills Cop script that he had rewritten. He was originally going to be in the Beverly Hills Cop. And
oh, really?
Yeah. And he rewrote it, and he took out all the humor because he thought it was, everything that makes Beverly Hills Cop fun.
Yeah.
Took out of it because it wasn't a Stone movie. He rewrote
Beverly Hills Cop is really good.
And he ended up like stepping out of that movie at the last minute and kind of leaving them at the altar too, that's a whole crazy story in itself. But he had this script that was back to him, and it was this rewritten Beverly Hills Cop, which became Cobra, this super, super serious, over the crazy Canon movie. And he wanted to make it with Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers finally said, hey, if you give up your rights, your exclusive rights, you let us make this movie with Stallone, we will fund the rest of Over the Top for you. And they went with it. But Canon being Canon, they worked it into the contract that they would get their names on as executive producers on Cobra as well. So
hey, you gotta be smart.
Yeah. So really it's interesting. I love Cobra. Cobra is an amazing movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
But it's also one that I think it was Shout put that DVD out.
Shout. Yes.
It's an excellent edition. And because it was a Warner Brothers movie, there's still so many elements and stuff was kept, and the Cobra story is out there. So I didn't have to focus the energy on trying to research it and tell it myself, because
so that's cool though. So you can just get the Blu-ray and all that.
There's another thing just within arm's reach of here's the novelization.
Oh, sweet! You have the novelization of Over the Top.
Over the Top. It's got my notes. I was actually so this was based on. All novelizations at this point or at that point were based on early scripts, usually because they had to come out before the movie. So that's very different than what you actually saw in the film before it was rewritten by Stallone.
That's awesome, because I always like buying those myself too, because like you said, they're based on the first edition, like early script stuff, so they're always so different than what you see, because I love reading those. They're so man, that is awesome.
My notes are sticking out of it because I post stuff on Twitter all the time, so I was
I know
reading
you
it.
post amazing stuff, man.
Thank you. I have fun. Now that I know that there are other Canon fans out there. Like I was off of social media for like the whole time I was reading the first book, and then I jumped on it because to get the word out there, make connections, and it was like, holy crap! Like there are other people out there. Great, this is a great place to share these things. That obviously there are only so many pages in a book, and
that's true. But that is really cool about the novel thing, and that's an interesting story about Cobra and Over the Top and how it was all fun. That's it. I like that. That's a good story. Brian Barth has been wanting to ask this question twice. I'm sorry I haven't got to you earlier, Brian, but he wants to know, Austin, what happened to Chuck Norris in acting?
I'm curious whether that means like, why is he a bad actor, or what is he doing now? Like, what isn't he?
I think maybe he's just too old, and he's got different views on acting now. So
so Chuck Norris like didn't really get into the business for a long time. He was, actual like karate champion for years and years, and then ran his dojos, and that's how he got into Hollywood, is through people like needing martial artists for movies, and him supplying not only himself in some of these. That's how he ended up with Bruce Lee, with fighting Bruce Lee, but also, if they needed, a bunch of martial artists to fight somebody in any sort of action movie in the 70s, he would supply them. And then he started starring in his own very martial arts movies. But by the time he came to Canon, mid like 1983, 84, we put it in there. He was kind of getting tired of just the kicking. He was 45 years old. And I can only imagine, like, I can't kick as high as Chuck Norris could at any point. I'm sure Chuck Norris can kick higher than I can now in his 80s. It's actually his birthday tomorrow, 82. But so happy birthday, Chuck Norris, if you're watching. But
cool if he was. If you are, happy birthday, Chuck Norris.
But
happy birthday, man.
The thing was, so he got out of those, and they started making these action movies that Canon. He was punching, he was still doing some kicks, but they weren't full martial arts movies. He was shooting guys with Uzis, like hanging off the side of a van in Delta Force, hanging off the side of a truck in Invasion USA. He hangs off the sides of a lot of vehicles, lots of Vietnam films. And he made a ton of movies for Canon. He got to be a cop and things like that. So he was trying to round him out into a more real, not just martial arts star, but an action star. And then he got Walker. Walker ended up being kind of the perfect thing for him, because it went in for a long time. It was in syndication. He just a rather wholesome show, and he always wanted to be this sort of wholesome. He saw himself as sort of like John Wayne, like a kicking John Wayne. Like that's how he projected himself. But he just got old. Even when he was making Walker, he was, I think, like 60s when he stopped that. And Bronson was able to do it well into his old age, but Bronson also wasn't a guy who was still expected to roundhouse people. And I think Chuck just sort of
taking it back. Just retired.
He would still do things every now and then, but
Runner has to unfortunately go. We can continue on for here a couple more minutes, but Runner does have to go. Runner, you have anything you want to say before you leave?
Yeah, so I'm leaving. It's due to just academic stuff. I have a test tomorrow, unfortunately, so I gotta study for that. But you guys talk about Canon film. It's not. I'm not leaving because it's not that I don't.
Trust me, Runner actually he loves learning this stuff, even though he doesn't really has never seen, because it helps him with his movie collection and what he likes and his taste.
Exactly.
And since you're like a big action fan, Canon made tons of action films, so you should check out some of that.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, I've heard of some of them. I just never watched them.
Yeah,
I've heard of Over the Top, because I like Sylvester Stallone. I just still need to watch it.
Yeah, but thank you for coming on again, Runner. I'll see you next week. And
hell yeah,
good to meet you. Great to meet you.
Yeah, dude, great to meet you, man. And I'll check out your book at some point.
Oh, thank you. It's in my saved shopping cart list on Amazon.
Oh,
yeah.
awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Yeah, all right, you guys have a good night.
Have a good night. Drop your channel again, and I'll put it up again.
Of course.
All right. Have a good night,
All right.
Runner.
Peace.
Good luck on your test.
I'm looking down through the comments. Just Brian is clarifying. He meant by what is he doing now? Chuck.
Oh, yeah.
So he writes some conservative blogs, political blogs. He's selling like power water, some sort of water that's better for you than normal water. I forget what it's called, Sea Force water or something like that, like Chuck Force water.
Yeah.
And he's selling, I believe, gold coins. He does infomercials for gold coins now. It's a lot of stuff that it seems like he's gone, but if you watch like old people television, like just over the air broadcast, he's like very much, you'll see his commercials on there. He's not doing the Bowflex
anymore.
But yeah, he's selling gold coins to old people.
So there you go. But 4K Cinema here says, which movie soundtracks from Canon do you own? I have Revenge of the Ninja. I might get Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 from Waxwork on vinyl. So do you own any of the soundtracks?
I wish I would have brought those down because I've been collecting those for years. But I got just a bunch of stuff. A lot of the old Maurice Sarabande releases. Like Ennio Morricone did some soundtracks for him, which all got released on vinyl back in the day. I have the Bloodsport from Waxwork out of new ones. I haven't ordered the Texas 2 vinyl yet, but I really should, because that's probably going to sell out before.
Yeah, that's one of the ones chance. Like if you don't get like even the Shout Factor, Scream Factory Blu-ray of Texas Chainsaw 2 is it's crazy, man. You can't even find a good copy of that anymore.
Yeah. all this stuff with the rights, and especially with MGM, like a lot of Canon stuff is going to go out of print.
Yeah.
Or if it's new in print, it probably won't stay in print long.
Yeah. Victor Fontaine says he also, besides his Chuck Norris military movies, he loved Silent Rage and fights a psychotic villain that can't die. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. And he did. VHS Mikey said he's picking up your film guide, but go ahead with the.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Chuck did some great stuff, even outside of Canon. He had a run of action and like cop movies in like the late 70s, early 80s. Stuff like Code of Silence, which are some really, really fun films. I like seeing all the questions in the comments. That's why I love this. The audience, the comments in the audience is why I do this. They're awesome. To everybody in the chat, everybody that's watching, I appreciate all this because it helps the flow of the show, and that's why we do things. You mean without you guys, we wouldn't be here. So, yeah. So Aaron Norris, was Chuck's brother. He started as a stunt man first with Canon on Chuck movies, then a stunt coordinator. He worked as a stunt coordinator on Avenging Force, which is a fantastic Michael Dudikoff movie. I think that's out on Kino Lorber. Put it out on a pretty cheap Blu-ray. One is just an underseen. If you haven't seen it, like Avenging Force is great. It's very much similar to Hard Target. It's set in New Orleans where veterans are getting hunted for sport by like rich weirdos. So those two films are a good double feature. But yeah, Aaron was the stunt coordinator on that, and then as Chuck's relationship with Canon kept, like Aaron eventually worked his way up to director. So he ended up directing a Delta Force movie, a Missing in Action movie for Canon, and then stuff without his brother in it. So Canon was very big on keeping their big stars happy, I think. So if you were a Charles Bronson or a Chuck Norris, it wasn't uncommon for Canon to find work for your siblings, your family members, spouses, things like that.
Yeah.
Chuck's son was in a couple Canon movies, Mike Norris. And then Charles Bronson, famous. I mean, Jill Ireland is an actress in her own right, was his wife, but she starred in a bunch of his non-Canon movies with him, but two of his Canon movies, and she produced another. But two of his stepsons worked on Canon movies for him that he had also been in. So it wasn't uncommon for if you made a lot of money for Canon, they would hire your siblings.
Yeah.
If you wanted them
to. Have you seen the other documentary on the Go-Go Boys? Have you seen that?
Yeah, that was funny story because the Electric Boogaloo came out and they Golden Globus. Golem is sadly he passed away, but he was alive when they were working on it. And the cousins had this falling out. So they hadn't talked to each other for years, but they heard this documentary was coming out, and they were able to come together to produce their own documentary. Like put aside their differences, and it's great. Yeah, I mean that the MVD just put the Blu-ray out, and it's also like a bargain. I think
it's like $15.
Yeah.
Or 12, whatever, it's pretty cheap. I would get it.
Worth grabbing. It's fun. It's definitely a very much more, because it's not as many people saying about the bad things on Canon because they're making it themselves and they're talking about their old bosses, and these are obviously people who had good experiences. But they're both great. Like you should see both films. There are 2 documentaries. Yeah, just like Canon to rush out to put their own documentary
at the same time.
out before somebody else makes one about them.
Yeah,
but I was surprised there wasn't like a Canon, like the Canon video book or something like by Yoram Globus that beat mine to the Amazon listing
before you could put yours out.
Yeah, I was surprised that didn't happen.
This seems like a really good question to possibly end this on, since we've been going about an hour and a half here. Usually we go about 2 hours, but Brian Barthier's question, and then I'll put you on full screen here. Maybe you can share some stuff. What led to Canon's demise? So, if you want to share some stuff and talk about what led to their demise, that's awesome. And then we'll probably end it on that.
Stuff I have to demonstrate the end of Canon. So Canon had a lot of things going quite not going well by the mid 80s. So I'm going to address a few different things that kind of all added up to this. One of the big things was that their films got bigger. Their bread and butter were these action movies, these that were $5 million or less, that they could sell reliably for many times that on the market. If they had just kept making these small Chuck Norris, if they'd made more ninja movies, they could have just kept going if they'd kept with that budget. But what happened is they wanted to compete with the big guys. They called themselves a mini major. They wanted to be the 7th major studio is what they called themselves. Like always, it's on their catalog for the 1985, the making of the 7th major. They wanted to compete with the big guys. And so then I think they saw that they had to start spending money. And that's where you get films like Life Force, like Over the Top, like Superman, like Master Universe,
which are great movies, but
which are great movies. But at that point, if you could make a movie for $5 million that you sold, for $20 million, it didn't matter if it came out in the theaters and made 100,000, and disappeared after the first weekend, because they had already pre-sold the video rights, the foreign rights, every cable and everything like that. But when you were dropping $20 to $30 million on a movie that you had pre-sold for 10 million, 50 million, 20 million, you needed those just to keep everything going. So they got into this cycle where they were making, a couple dozen movies in a year, but they had these giant tentpole movies that were eating up the resources that all of these other movies, basically all the money that they had gotten from all these other movies, were going into making these other movies that weren't making any money, these big ones. And so that was one issue. That was where things went really bad. Through that, they also got to the point where they were misrepresenting how much the movies cost to make and how much they actually made. They were basically fudging the books with the numbers. And so they came under investigation with the SEC, which then made a lot of creditors pull out, not have invested. People just didn't know. Suddenly you have actors who, like Al Pacino, who was lined up to make a movie with Canon,
right,
suddenly be like, let's step back here. We can't, like this. I don't want to get into something that's going to embarrass me if this company goes under. So you have a lot of people pulling out there. So that was a problem. There's actually, here's a maybe kind of related, but a stock certificate from Canon from late 87 somebody bought $100 worth of Canon stock, and in 1987 they did not get that $100 back. So
that sucks.
So this poor guy, that ended up not being a good investment on his part. But so those were two things. The other thing was, so in 85, late 85, you have all this success. You have Death Wish 3, Invasion USA, and American Ninja all being #1 movies at the box office.
Yes.
Followed by Breakin' and Missing Action in 84 being these big runaway hits. You have Runaway Train getting Oscar nominations. You have all these directors who I said have named before coming in and stars, and Stallone signing this big deal with them. Canon looks very legit. And so they had this huge line of credit extended to them. All these people had this confidence in Canon, and Canon had just this crazy amount of money. And they used that to buy Thorn EMI, which was a gigantic British studio and catalog of films, chain of theaters. And the main thing people talk about is Elstree Studios, which is where Kubrick shot films. Empire Strikes Back shot there. The Indiana Jones movies shot there. All these huge, amazing productions. And Canon spent basically all of that money that could have funded, at Canon rates, 60 Canon films that would have probably all made a profit. They blew it on real estate and a studio that was built for filming movies like Empire Strikes Back. Right. Stuff is huge. If you're a company that you're very good at making ninja movies and Chuck Norris movies, you don't have any reason to buy something that huge. And they were forced to sell it. Yes, they couldn't afford to upkeep all this stuff years and years later. So that was a huge issue. But that's, if you look at something where all of their problems start to snowball, where they spend all this money and then they get to make Superman 4 and they don't have the money to pay for the effects crew, so they all leave. You have Master Universe, where there's a guy who decides this set is going, this movie is going to shut down at this time, literally pulling the plug. There's a guy standing next to the plug from Canon because they at midnight to pull the yank it, so they can't go anymore and they can't spend any more money. And before Master Universe shot an ending, which is nuts. They had to all this money. There's a great, unfortunately, a movie, Assassination, 1987, with Charles Bronson. Fun movie, but they had this whole great action scenes finale set up with boat chases and things are blowing up, and Canon calls them and just says, "Hey, we can't pay for this, so rip those pages out of the script." So you get a very sudden, dumb, tiny ending to this giant action film. Yeah. But it's because creditors came, especially with the SEC, looking knocking on their door, being like, "Hey, Canon, can you pay us back for some of these things?" So suddenly things went very out of control back in 80, really by the end of 87. Their stocks crashed. They were canceling movies, yanking budgets from movies, and they end up getting bought up by basically a gangster from Europe. Same guy who ended up buying MGM for a while. And that's another whole crazy story.
Yeah.
But at that point, Canon was no longer the Canon that they had been for years that we know and love. And it sort of went into the direct-to-video. Their movies went from being, these kind of mid-budget to low-budget, but very competent action films, to these kind of super cheap action movies. The best way to look at it is if you want to sit down sometime and marathon the American Ninja series. It's a great series of films. But any film series, especially when they're hits, each one you're going to top it. You're going to make the movie.
Yeah, make it bigger.
Make the next one bigger and better. You're going to spend more on the sequel. You're going to have great action scenes. American Ninja goes backwards.
It does.
Each one gets cheaper and cheaper until at the end it's just this direct-to-video in 1995. By the time it gets released.
Yeah, those are good movies too. But yeah, I totally get that. I mean, That's crazy, man. I didn't know all that about all that. That is crazy.
It's a lot to, it's kind of funny because I've been writing these books. The first one is the 8084, and it's kind of the rise of canon. It ends with Missing in Action and Breaking, and these huge hits for, these guys come out of nowhere. They make these little exploitation movies, and suddenly they're being taken seriously by Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then you got 85 through 87 which is their peak years. What all these big ones, where they bring in Stallone, you have Delta Force, you have American Ninja, all these great, fun action movies that did pretty well. But then the third book is kind of the dark years, the direct to video. But that's I'm going to hopefully, outside of Van Damme being like the lone shining bright spot in that period of canon, I'm going to supplement the third book with. I've been working on it already, which is exciting for me because it's really fun. But I'm probably going to call it just canceled canon, and it's about. I think right now there's 108 that I'm planning on writing about.
Yeah.
But projects that Canon announced that for one reason or another were
never came through. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Because I'm looking forward to getting all three of these all together for my collection. So I can't wait for all that. So at least you're not, like you said, at least you're not going to George R.R. Martin us. So at least you're going to get it all out. And before we close it down here, you got anything like really rare canon that's around you that maybe nobody's seen? Maybe you can share a little bit, or something that you're just really proud to have with you that you want to share before we close it down.
Yeah. Well, this is something that's fun. Simply, if you've seen it, I think I was holding it. I visited the sets, some of the, well, not sets, but locations, the New York locations from Death Wish 3, which some of it was shot in New York, some of it was shot in London, made to look like New York. But this is a parking tag.
That's cool.
To drive in and off the New York locations for Death Wish 3. So I can't imagine too many of these are left in existence. But yeah, you would stick this in your window and you can get waved onto the chute. So that's something cool. That's something I'm very excited about. I have so many weird random things like signed letters, and like I've got this not ever going to show up on camera very well, unfortunately, but it's a Charles Bronson check.
Oh, that's cool.
That he apparently he needed $100 for like grocery. I don't know, probably walking around money, but he wrote himself a check for $100 and cashed it. So it's fun because it's signed. He wrote it out to himself, and then on the back it's signed where he cashed it. So
yeah, that's cool. And good night, Brian Barth. Brian Barth had to go to bed. So good night, Brian Barth. Thank you for your questions.
I see one comment. BW tangible moments. I have to say Last American Virgin is the most downer of ending of any teen sex comedy. Definitely. Like I interviewed Diane Franklin for the first book, and it was still weird because like part of me hadn't forgiven her character from Last American Virgin all these years later.
That's got to be weird. So what's that like talking to like her, because of what happens at the end of that movie, and you're coming to her as a fan, and that she's not that person, but still you have that attachment.
Everyone is super down to earth, which is cool. Like that's what's been fun is any of the people I haven't dealt with any prima donnas, which working for the magazine I definitely like had over the years but on this, like usually the people who agreed to talk about their canon experiences with me were kind of look back on them fondly, and for her that was the movie that made her like it was her first big like film for her career. But yeah, there's people who I reached out to, and I was surprised I got a response. And like we were talking about Wings Hauser earlier, like I got a phone call from Wings Hauser to talk about Tough Guys Don't Dance, which is I mean, he's had some wild movies in his career.
Yes,
but it's just one of those signature just insane Wings Hauser performances, and that's one of my highlights. Is just like a huge fan. Like
that's cool. Have you ever got in touch with Jean-Claude Van Damme?
So For this specifically, I interviewed him back when Jean-Claude Van Johnson premiered on
on Amazon
Prime. So I did a junket with him and talked to him then, and it was fun. I mean, I remember so I have the audio. You tape these interviews so you can go and do the article later. And I remember the part of the tape I was so excited about was he's like, "Hey, Austin, you can call me." I said, like, hi, it's me talking. I'm like, "Hi, Jean-Claude." He's like, "Oh," he's like, "Hi, Austin, don't call me Jean-Claude. Call me JC." JC. I'm like, "Okay, JC." I'm like, I'm on JC terms with Van Damme. My wife's a huge Van Damme fan, so I was very excitedly like sent her that little like snippet of audio. But while I talked to him, I got one of the things was I wanted to get his full story of like how he started with Canon, because that's depending on who you hear interviewed. Manok Milan would always say in the interviews, he's like, "I discovered Van Damme," of course, like he did, like gave him his first like real break. But he always said that Van Damme was a waiter holding 2 plates over his head at a restaurant, a French restaurant they went to, and he kicked over his head without spilling these 2 bowls of soup that he was holding. And then, but the version Van Damme tells was always different. So finally I got him down. I was like, "What's your version?" Like, so I got the version of how his career started the first time meeting Van Damme, talking about going into the offices and taking off his shirt and doing splits and showing his muscles on Van Damme's desk. Like that part was all true. Like it was just the soup part that Menachem made up, because Menachem Golan was very much a guy who liked to make his own, like build up his own legend, and in a ways that weren't really truthful. So
there you go.
But yeah, so that'll be in the 3rd book. Hopefully, I really hope, like, Van Damme was someone who notoriously like didn't really talk about his old projects.
Yeah.
But then you have MVD, who did these fantastic editions of Double Impact and Lionheart.
Yes, I love
where they
Lionheart.
got him to sit down and he talked about those movies and he was flowing. So I'm like hoping that maybe like at this point in his career, like
maybe he's willing to open up about them.
Yeah. Like I would love, because he was a great, I mean, the Jean-Claude Van Johnson interview I got to do and meet him then was just like so much fun. And he's a guy who's, I think, I mean, he definitely did a lot of dumb things in his career and got in a lot of trouble and things like that. But I think he's also very self-aware and now at least, but also he's got a great story, you know, guy comes to the US and leaves his whole life behind to become a movie star and pulls it off.
I grew up watching his movies, man. So that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to reading that when you get that out. So that's cool. But yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. And we've been going about an hour 47 here. Like I said, we usually go about 2 hours here. So if there's anything else you want to show or say before we close it out, let me know.
I'm all set here. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any questions over there in the comments. But yeah, no, it's I am yep.
Yeah, who hasn't acted a fool at one point in their lives? That's true. That's true.
Yeah, and it's easy to act a fool when you're the top action star in the world for a brief period of time. I think you got a little leeway to be.
Yeah. And Tyrell72 says, "Great show, guys. I'm definitely going to buy your book, Austin. Hope you come back again." Yes, you're welcome back anytime you want to come back on. I'm sure Tom, when he wakes up, he's going to kick himself for not being able to hear. So I'm sure he's going to want to talk to you. So
awesome. And thank you. I see people pick the book. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ordered it. And
if you guys are on Facebook or Twitter, like hit me up there. I still have, since I wasn't able to do real like signings in person for the first book, we actually printed up these stickered like book plates to sign. So like if you find it's Canon Phil by both on Facebook and Twitter, if you find me there and hit me up, I'll send you the signed book plate.
That's what I would have to get your book and have you sign it for me.
Yeah, that's the way to do the virtual signings when you release a book in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
At the start of a pandemic, really.
Yeah, at the start of it. But I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Austin, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome back anytime. You get out all your Canon stuff and you share it, and we'll talk some more.
I'll dig out a different selection for another time.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you to the chat. I always like to go through. Here's another person, Cosmic Squirrels, ordering your book.
Thank you.
I always like to thank the chat. Random Brad Creator. Thank you, Cosmic Squirrel. Thank you, Anthony Draven, HVP, VHS Mikey, Tyrell72, Bryant Barth, BW Tangible Moments, 4K Cinema HD. Thank you, Runner, for being on here as always. Victor Fontaine. I'm sure that I'm like Tim Possible. Thank you. I like to try to thank because that's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. So thank you all for here, and everybody that was watching that didn't comment. Thank you guys for watching. And if you're new here, don't take offense to this, because this is how I end every one of my streams. If you're not new here, you know the drill. So get ready.
How you doing? Bitches leave.